All right, so Bill McCarrick passed away, and just a few days ago, and he was a huge influence on in just a short period of my life. When I was on the JV baseball team, which we talked about last time. He, I was trying to like put into like figure out why, but everybody loved him. It was amazing. Even back then, you just knew it. Everybody loved him, and I didn't really. My first like, sort of finding out when he became put on my radar was my mom was a teacher at the junior high, and he was the junior high wrestling coach. And I remember like going there with my mom, and he would be like in the out right outside the cafeteria trying to get people to sign up for wrestling and like during different events and stuff. And I remember he just kind of I don't know. I always thought, oh, this guy must be mean because he just sort of had like this serious look all the time. And then we'd go to some of the wrestling because the kids in my mom's class would say, "Hey, will you go watch me wrestle? I got a game." And my mom would do it. Like most teachers wouldn't go, but she would go. And I like doing it. I like going to when I was in fourth grade or whatever. We'd go up there and watch. And I watched him, and I remember him like tilting his head like this, like because the kid's on the ground wrestling, he'd be like trying to coach the kid. He just always seemed like sort of grouchy, but everyone seemed to love him. Man. So that was my first experience with him. Then when I was a sophomore, I was on the baseball team, and we were very good. I never played, but we were very good. And I guess we had the most wins ever by a JV team from Owasso, and a lot of it was just with him. He was, we had a lot of talent, but like he was very good at knowing how to like get the most out of his players, and he was a good guy. Did you know him at all?
I can see his face. I never had any experience with him, so this was really cool. I love this topic of good coaches because man, a good coach or a good mentor comes in your life can change your life.
Absolutely. Yeah, I guess let's see here. He was 71, and yeah, I don't. The big thing with him was during the JV baseball banquet at the end of the year. We're in the choir, the auditorium, and at the high school, and he's announcing all the different players like MVP and this and that. And he gets to me, and I don't do any of that, but he says that he wishes, like if he had a daughter, he said he wished his daughter would date someone like me if he had one. Which is like a huge, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like at the time I was so embarrassed because, why don't you say I'm like a good hitter or something? But my
now
mom
in
was all
retrospect,
like, yeah, it was cool. And then my mom would always talk about that. It was like kind of embarrassing. But yeah, so that was a great thing for him to say to me, looking back on it. And so I really appreciated that. And a big thing with me is, this has been reinforced my whole life really, is people don't remember what you say, but how you make them feel.
5,000%.
So he was big into just making you feel like you're worthy, making you feel like you're good at whatever you're doing. I think that was a big part of my development and helping me with that. And then after that, I remember he took the coaching job at Morris, who they're not usually very good at football at all. And then our senior year, he took them all like really far in the playoffs. They were like awesome, and very small school, but he took them really far into the playoffs. And that was, I remember going to a couple, like one or two Morris games and watching them because they're like in the playoffs. And me and my dad used to go to playoff games. So we used to see that all the time. So yeah, Bill was, and then another thing before all this, he used to coach Little League Baseball in Owasso. You know where those fields are, like on Oakwood?
Yeah.
Okay. So we would he always seemed like he coached like True Value was the name of his,
Yeah.
True Value, what was it called? Whatever, the True Value Hardware in Owasso. So Gilbert's. He was always coaching the Gilberts, and they were always awesome. And I remember, oh shit, we're playing Gilberts again. We're gonna get our asses kicked, and we did. We lost every game. Like I'm sure. I don't think I've ever beat a Bill McCarrick coached Little League team, and he was always had like the best players, and
that's great. So you saw it. I mean, you knew him from
when I was little. Yeah, little. So yeah, a lot of things like Little League, and then he was the wrestling coach, and then he was my JV baseball coach. Then he was the coach at Morris. Then like after that, he was like an assistant coach at Croner or something. I remember like seeing him coaching at Corona across the way, like at an Owasso Corona game or something like that. So he's been around, all the time. And I remember one time in a game. You remember Daryl Sutliff?
Yeah. Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
so Daryl was a pretty good player. So there was a thing where me and him were on the bench. We weren't playing, I think. And then there was something going on, and he was trying to decide who he was going to pinch hit. Like in the strategy, he had two choices: either pinch hit for me, if this one thing happened, or have Daryl do it if this other whatever thing happened. And I remember sitting there thinking, just have Daryl back no matter what. He's better than me. The chances of him, this would be way better if we just do Daryl either way. So I always think about that.
funny.
I don't know why because I remember him like contemplating, like, should I do Baker? And like, what? Why is this even
Why is this a thing?
It's so easy. It's such an easy decision.
But then you go back to like the way you make people feel, kind of thing. Like it gives you kind of that even value.
That's true. Yeah. So
Like you don't know if he was doing that on purpose or anything, but
right. Just think about that season. It was so cold. Like I just remember being like playing in such bad weather a lot, and because you're playing in the spring, like in April and May, and windy. I remember we were like Carmen or somewhere one time, and it was like super windy and crazy weather, but Bill always had his jacket and he was ready to go. And he would wear the full uniform, full everything. And it was him. And that was it. Like we'd go to practice, it was just him. There wasn't anybody else. And then we had this other guy who was like, did stats. So he was like, that other guy wouldn't say anything. He was just on the bus with us and he just sort of stayed out of the way. But, Bill didn't really even talk that much. And I remember doing a game called Siskel and Ebert, which is like you're up to bat. Like everybody gets their chance to bat, and everyone else during practice is out on the field. And if you're up to bat, and if you get a good hit, he'll say Siskel, and that means you can keep hitting. And if you had a bat, like a pop up or whatever, then it's Ebert, and then you switch. I don't know. For some reason, I remember that game. Again, remember it a lot then, and I never heard of it ever since.
This is a way of life.
Yeah.
This is something I'm going to see all the time.
Yeah, like there's so much stuff in life where you think, oh, this is just how stuff is, and then it's gone, and you never see it again. So, yeah, he was just a steady guy, no drama, super smart guy, very like was always thinking like what the next step's going to be.
Well, I remember even last week when you were talking about the way he did the tryouts and how he had everyone ranked.
Yeah. Yeah, we were all in the room and watching a video, and he pulled us all in one at a time and just told us if we were on the team or not, and had a sheet, and then everybody was numbered, and then he had a line and had everybody labeled like what rank you were at all the different tools, like hitting and throwing and all that, and then I made it. So this was a good way to do it as opposed to like posting it up on the wall like the basketball coaches did.
Such a funny story because I think we can all relate.
Yeah,
to that walk. You're like trying not to look at anybody.
Horrible. Yeah, that was. Yeah. So that was good. Great coach.
Do you remember Coach Belair for track?
That I have.
That was junior year. That was and we won the Big Nine that year.
Yeah, very good. Junior year, yeah.
I remember he just had everything down to a science, and he was one of those coaches that made you believe in yourself too, and kind of give you that belief system. But he just had everything figured, like the lanes, and like you got to run over here because there's gonna be this much more feet that you're running for.
Yeah. Okay. What I remember about him, there's a lot of stuff. I have him on my list. So he was a chemistry teacher. Everybody loved him. He just passed away as well. I don't know if you know that. About a year ago. And he would. Super smart guy. Like everybody, again, I'm not just like there's never many people like this, but another guy who everybody loved. He was very different than Bill. Like more, I don't know, but Jerry was chemistry teacher. Everybody loved him in class, and then as a track coach, super smart. I remember him saying like he had a certain degree. I think it was like 53 degrees. This is the best degree temperature to run at. This ideal temperature to run at 53 degrees or whatever it was. And so, the biggest thing I remember about him is we would run out in the street a lot. But one time, so like on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we would lift and do like track work, and then on Tuesdays and Thursdays it would be posted 30-minute run or 45-minute run. So you'd have to run with everybody usually, and you just go around wherever. Well, this one time he said, okay, we're gonna run in the street. Here's the map chart of course. We're gonna go down Copus Road. I don't know if you remember, but Copus is like was it Oliver Street or whatever, but keep going east, like towards Corona. So we're going along there, and he goes, I'll be the end of it at State Road. And so just run to me. So we're going, and I've never run that far. I'm like, holy crap, we just keep going and going and going and run. So we get in freaking exhausted. And then we get all the way to the end. He has this car. He just blocked the whole street. He had his car, and he's standing in front of his car, just standing there. And he's like, and then we're all like, oh, stop. And we're all huffing and puffing, lean over, and we're taking our stuff. He's like, oh, yeah, you can just take all your stuff. So we're all like taking our sweatshirts off or whatever, because we're just also hot. And then he goes, okay, now run back. And I'm like, what? We just ran the farthest I've ever run in my entire life, and now I got to run back. So then we had to turn around and go all the way back, and that was just, but we were able to do it.
Yeah.
And that was his big thing was your body can take a lot more than you think it can. And that was a big takeaway that I got from him was that was one of his sayings is your body can take a lot more than you think that you're able to do. So he was very soft-spoken guy, great guy.
Very soft-spoken guy. Yeah.
Super smart.
I remember having the confidence that we got Blair at our corner. We're going to win the Big Nine. And we had some talented runners that year.
Okay, so that's funny you say that meet because what I remember about that meet is it was like in any high school track meet, at least back then, the 400-meter relay was the last race.
Last, it still is, yeah.
So I remember Blair coming to me a little bit before that and go, hey, get ready to run in the 400. I'm like, what? Me? What? Like, it's all set. And he's like, no, because he was doing the strategy where he was thinking that maybe he would have me pretend to get ready to run. So then the other team would think, oh, they're just giving up. And then they do a slow runner too, like me, I'm the slow runner. Yeah. They do a slow runner for them. And then we do a fast guy instead. And like trick them,
Because that's the kind of coach that Blair was. That's the kind of stuff he did.
I'm like, what? And then he explained it to me. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. So I think I sort of like kind of got ready to go. I was like sort of the decoy. Yeah, there's some, yeah. Okay, so speaking of football, Tom Harkin was another one who passed away.
I have to say, when we were talking about when you said Blair passed away.
So I did some research on this before this podcast, and it'll be 12 years ago tomorrow when he passed away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
12 years. So it was sort of, okay, so I knew him pretty well before I had him as a coach because he was sort of a family friend because he taught with my mom at the junior high. And so my mom's like super outgoing and stuff. So we got to know him pretty well. They used to come over to the house swimming, him and his wife and his daughter. His second daughter wasn't born yet. And so I knew him kind of, and it was so cool. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Like, because I was big into the football, and after the games sometimes we would go over to his house, and like all the other football coaches and some of the players and stuff would come and we'd all hang out like after the game. And I thought that was like the coolest thing ever. I was going over there at his house. So I kind of had like a good, I kind of knew who he was before I had him as a coach. And then way later, when I was working, trying to figure out what the hell I was going to do after college, I was doing this thing where I was sort of selling insurance kind of, but I never really got off the ground. But one of the things was you had to like you had to go out and like present this stuff, present your life insurance thing.
Yeah.
So it was really hard to get anybody to do it, but he did it. I remember just being so excited. He's like, yeah, come on. And I remember sitting I was so uncomfortable, but you brought like a mentor, and then the mentor was really the guy that was doing it. It was just to get him money. It was really all it was to give my mentor the thing. So anyway,
yeah,
it was so cool because he let us come in and sit at his dining room table with his wife, wife at the time, and very so nice of him to do that for me. Because I'm sure, and then of course I remember getting his call later and him leaving a voicemail saying he's not going to do it, and
oh man,
probably a smart move on his part. But so he was a good he was the track coach all the way through. So I had him for track. He was like the main one, but did sprinters. Which you were a sprinter.
I was.
Right?
I had more.
No? Yeah.
I had more familiarity with Harkema than Blair. I was very lazy. I should have run distance. Thinking, but actually, if I look back at it now, if I would have just known what the weight room was, I think I would have been fast in high school now because I'm pretty fast now.
Okay.
But like, in high school, I remember I ran. That's my senior year. I ran an 800 once. They had me run it, and I ran it in 2:15. And I was like, "Damn, I should have been running this like the whole entire time."
That's about as fast. That's about what my fastest ever was. That's good.
I felt good about it, and then they had me run the 800 from then on. And yeah,
that's great. So he was a big thing with Harkema. There's a lot of stuff, but one thing I remember mostly is if you swore, then you had to do push-ups. Remember this?
Yeah.
And then if he swore, he would do push-ups.
Yep.
Which I thought was pretty cool.
And he had to do it a few times.
Yeah, he would swear and then he would do the push-ups. I remember one time specifically him doing it right on the track. So he was he's a man of his word.
Harkman was always a good guy. Yeah. No, super sad when I found out he had gotten cancer and then
it was
passed
so
away.
quick.
Oh my God, so quick.
All of a sudden. Yeah. So one time you could probably, I think you'll cut this one out, but just so you know, I remember I was so nervous the freshman year. We're in the wrestling room. He's taking roll for everybody, saying everybody's name, and then he gets to me and then he goes, "Baker, are you going to wear that collared shirt every day at practice?" Because I was wearing like a rugby shirt with it wasn't like a golf shirt. It was like a rugby where it's cotton,
Yeah.
And it was cold, so it was long sleeve, but it had a collar. And he, in front of everybody, "Baker, you're going to wear a collar every day to practice?" No. And then he moved on. He goes, "Oh, okay." Oh. And I remember him going, "Oh, all right, I was just wondering." And then he moved on. Yeah, just to like talk shit, he had to like, and I still remember that. So if you're gonna say something mean to a kid, just to be a jerk, they're gonna remember.
You just remember they will remember it for the rest of their life. They'll remember.
That's right. And but he would like teach us different things. Like, okay, it was either him or Blair would teach us, and I think about this all the time because I run a lot. Is that you don't clench your fists when you run? You're supposed to like keep them like this. I don't know, like. You're supposed to do something like this instead of like
more like a loose.
Fist. So you're like more relaxed.
Yep.
And he would always get ready. He was always like having us warm up before our thing and before our time to race during the meet. And that could be. I remember Mr. Blair saying my senior year that this is the best shape you're going to be in your entire life, and I didn't believe him, and he was absolutely right. That was by far the best shape I was ever in. And so I did not, to be honest, I did not look, I'm glad I did it, but I didn't look forward to it. I remember one time I was really sick during school and thinking, "Oh my God, now I got to run track afterwards." And lifting, or we would
lift, yeah.
Especially your freshman year, because you're not used to anything. You do all this, you're super exhausted. You run, do the whole track, whatever it is that for that day, the practice outside. And then you came in and lifted.
Yeah.
I remember Mr. Freeman in there.
Yep,
doing the lift. I just remember walking in, there's Mr. Freeman he was in charge of the lifting. Mr.
Freeman was like the guy that was like benching in the corner. Like he was always huge and like,
yeah, he was a big, strong guy. I just remember being like, "This is impossible. How can I lift now? I'm the tiredest I've ever been and now I have to lift."
Well, you think about it.
And then you do it. And then you do it. And then you're fine. But so a lot of mental shit with that because like you overcome a lot of stuff if they force you. If somebody who knows what they're doing puts you in a position to like get stronger and push you a little bit or even a lot, then you do better.
And I think at the end of the day, because the majority of athletes in high school or, majority of us are not going to play professional or even college athletics. Mm-hmm. I think sports in general, outside of it being fun and competitive and all that kind of stuff and giving you something to do, it's for those lessons. Mm-hmm. It's to do the hard shit. It's to put yourself in an environment where you care about the next guy too, and because like there's so many situations in life that you get there. And man, I love hiring the athletes because they're already used to being coachable. They're coached. They're already used to being, not elevated, but evaluated.
Okay. Oh. Yeah, I did all that stuff helped even in band. I can't remember which podcast as well with band and being out on Spartan Stadium and like being out there on the field and you're being nervous and performing even when you're nervous is super important. Because then I remember when I was getting a teaching job and then you're going for a second grade teaching job at Swartz Creek and you walk in, you've never been to this place, you've never met any of these people, and you sit down at a desk and there's tables like a U shape in front of you and there's 7 people all around firing questions at you. I don't know. There's something about like being nervous a lot of other times in your life and having to perform in front of a bunch of people, and you do that enough that you're able to you're able to like do stuff. And being prepared is another big thing.
Being prepared, yeah.
So, and I did a pretty good job of like I didn't get that job, but I did a pretty good job of like doing interviews and performing under pressure, and it's a pretty important thing when you're a single dad and you need jobs.
Oh my God, yeah.
Here we go. This is it. And you prepare and then you get there and you're ready. You're ready and you've been through hard stuff before and then you're able to do it.
And I was wondering when you first started talking about this, I was wondering, I'm like, what episode did we talk about this? But you said it in a text, how you're like, you've been on like NSU Spartan Stadium on the field.
Okay. I didn't know if I'd talk about that. Yeah. So that, and just like, we played all over it. In marching in parades and all kinds of stuff. So, and then like having important golf shots to hit and and track was never very pressure filled because everyone always kicked my ass. But there's a couple of times in golf when I had to hit important shots, and then just being out in front of all those people in band all the time, like at football games and stuff, was kind of helped.
Oh yeah.
You don't think about that. You're just going through it. That's what you have third hour. So you just you go through your shit when you're 16, but it stays in your head and then it helps you down the road, I think.
So I did play basketball, obviously, so I didn't have Patel as a coach, but like having him through the newspaper and through the class, like he was one of my as far as like biggest influences through high school period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Patel, he was great. Another good teacher. We had him for journalism. He was always a sharp guy, super nice guy. Asked me to do stats. I can't remember how I got started with that because I didn't really know him my sophomore. I think what happened was that when I got cut my junior year, he said, "Hey, if anybody wants to help out, you can do it." And I was like, "Oh, I kind of want to." So then I did that my sophomore and junior year, and then he wanted to. I did it my sophomore year, and he begged me to come back. Not really begged, but he asked me to come back my junior year. And I didn't want to, but I did it anyway, and I'm glad I did. But yeah, so that I was able to just be really good, sit right on the bench, ride there with the team. I still remember all that stuff. So just going all over the Flint area, going to these different basketball games,
Well, and for us playing in Flint, and if anybody from Owasso right now is listening to this, you'd probably never be able to fathom it. But we were pretty good. Like we were playing Flint schools. We were talking about before in the last episode how we played like Carmen Ainsworth and Nick Stapleton and Rory Jones and some good teams. Kelvin Sims. We were playing some legit teams.
Charlie
Bell and Southwestern Academy. And yet we held our own, and I think Fattel was a big part of that from a coaching standpoint.
Yeah, he always had him ready. We were probably about 500, maybe a little under 500 in basketball, but they always pretty competitive. And yeah, it was what a great time going out and just. One thing that helped me was, in addition to like doing the stats, I also had to like get for home games. I had to get the starting lineups from the opposing coach. So I had to go over and I was all like 16, and I had to talk to this big scary dude. What's your starting lineup? So I remember doing it with the Flint Beecher coach. It's a huge guy, and getting that. I remember that specifically. Asking him, and there's nothing really happened. He just gave me the thing, but the starting lineup, and then I would give it to the announcer, who was Mr. Harkema, by the way, was always the announcer for the basketball games, and he would read off the starting lineups. And
Harkema was so universal. Like he did so many. he taught like this math class, like.
Jim. Track. He was the basketball coach. JV.
I was say he was basketball coach for a minute.
JV basketball coach. Yep, for I think my sophomore year. So it was the kids in our grade. So yeah, it was. He was all over the place. And he's out of the junior high apparently with my mom. I don't here and there, but yeah.
Fattel for me though again, you talked about before. It's not the people that like what they say, what they do. It's the way they people make you feel. And like he gave me hope. Like I felt like I was really good at writing. I felt like I was, and I wanted to pursue that for the long. And even fast forward to this day, and like doing the podcasting and everything, I found kind of a passion in that. But man, he fueled it, and he made me feel like I could do that. And for me, I had went through high school, like I had found like I could get attention in like come out of my shell by being humorous. Yeah. And, so I was in Mr. Burtis's class and caused a bunch of trouble. And then like I had Miss Miller, who I remember everybody was like, get in Miss Miller's class because all these people tormented Miss Miller. And then I got into Miss Miller's class. I ended up actually really liking her. Like I was like, we ended up having a really good class, and like she embraced my sense of humor. She let me like read the voices and like do them in like women's voices and stuff like that. So she embraced it, and I ran into her after high school actually at it was not Fifth Third, it was the bank in Owasso. It used to be. It's not Old Kent. It was Old Kent back then. And it was like a couple years after high school, and she was like, she told me that I was her favorite student in her favorite class of all time. And I was no way. That's super cool. So, but going back to Fattel, Fattel was the first person that made me feel like I had a talent at something.
Right. Yeah. That is awesome. And we did such cool stuff there. We went down to the Tiger game.
Yeah.
The Tiger game against the Blue Jays in our senior year, and we got to interview Todd Jones in the dugout. I still have it on tape somewhere. The whole interview.
We got to find it.
In the dugout.
And Todd Jones
I remember like talking to him, and I remember he had a baseball bat, and he's like leaning on a baseball bat. And I remember looking up out of the dugout in this like super duper historical dugout, and all these cameramen were taking pictures, and that was like a really cool moment. And then later, I don't know if you remember this, but we went up and talked to the play-by-play announcers, who was Frank
Beckman and
Larry Sorensen, who was a former major league player. And everybody was so nice. He took us around, and then afterwards we watched the game. Yeah, that was just
the cool. I don't know how he got that hookup, but that was so freaking cool.
We were able to go and all that. So yeah, that was. I don't even know how we got there. Did we take a bus? I don't remember. I just remember all that stuff and just like interviewing this player.
That was a highlight for me for high school. Period.
Are you kidding me? Yeah, that was probably the best. Like. Yeah, that was
for kids like us. I was obsessed with sports my whole, Tigers since 86.
Yeah, and it was right after Whitaker and Trammell left because it was in '97, so they just had retired. But yeah, that team was not the greatest. But just being at Tiger Stadium in the dugout, are you kidding me? Talking to Todd Jones,
and then Todd Jones, and Todd Jones had just been traded that year from the Houston Astros, so he was his first year there, and then he went on to become the all-time saves leader for the Tigers. And he's still a broadcaster.
Yeah. And I remember I knew who he was. So, like I was probably the only one. I don't know. Did you know who he was?
I knew who he was.
Okay. Yeah. So I knew who he was, and I was just like, holy crap, because I had heard of him. I remember him being with the Astros and being kind of the closer. I thought, we got it. Like this is a pretty good guy. And now looking back at it, I realized why they got him. He's very talkative. He'd be a perfect guy for that. So I thought they chose well, because I remember not knowing. I remember being like, who are we interviewing? And I remember Fattel saying, I don't know. Like it wasn't set who it was going to be. We're just going to interview a player.
Yep.
And so that was awesome. He was able to do that for us.
He gave us the time of day. We're obviously high school kids. He took it really seriously. And then I asked him, because back in the day, Singled Out was on MTV was the show.
Yeah.
And the question I asked him is if he preferred Jenny McCarthy or Carmen Electra.
Oh yeah, I almost remember that. Do you remember what he said?
He said Jenny McCarthy. Which at the time, 5,000%. Now I'd go Carmen Electra probably.
I can't believe I asked him that. That's awesome. I wish I
well, again, it's going back to the sense of humor. That was like my kind of, my thing was like, and I was like, somebody probably dared me to do it. And,
I wonder what I asked. I got to find that.
You got to pull up the tape.
I have it somewhere. I don't know where it is.
I had it for years, and I think I left it in some Flint apartment that I had. Like, we had this like little storage unit.
It's
I remember down there.
gone.
Now now that place is boarded up, so it's definitely gone.
So, did you have any other coaches?
So it's like coaches that I've had
Yeah.
particularly in the work environment, like and stuff like that. But like I only
That
ran track
counts
through high
for
school
sure.
for sure.
Yeah. So,
You
who's some of your mentors?
So for me, I had this guy that his name's Dean Leisha, and he kicked my ass a whole lot. Again, one of those people
In a good way.
in a good way. Yeah. I started working at this Verizon store in Fenton, and it's funny because like, do you talk about interviewing and applying for jobs? Like, you ever go out like applying for jobs and you stop in one place and like there was one place is like, oh my God, we need you. Like they hype you up and you think you're gonna get a call from them immediately. Like I got that. I walked into the Sprint store and the Sprint store was like, oh my God, like you worked at these places. This is amazing. Like the Sprint store in Fenton, like we're gonna hire you. We need an assistant manager, blah, blah, blah. So I'm like, all right, I'm done for the day. I'm not going to pass out any more applications. This is a pretty good deal. Like this should be a pretty good paying job, blah, blah, blah. So as I'm driving down Silver Lake Parkway in Fenton, I drive by and there's a Verizon store that's kind of buried in this corner next to a Subway. There's a cleaners there and stuff. It's a miracle you're there now. But so I'm like, okay, there's a Verizon. You know what? I'll just swing by, pass off this last resume since it's like right there. So I drop in. And there's just this dude working there. Like he's like, yeah, I know our boss usually isn't here. It's our slow store. He never usually comes in. But yeah, I'll take your resume, whatever. So like I'm driving home. I'm like living in Flint at this time. So I'm driving back home from Fenton and I get a call from Dean. He's like, hey, dude, I don't normally come out to this store, but I just stopped out here and I saw you dropped off a resume. Do you got time to come out and do an interview right now? And so I turned back around. I go out and I interview with this guy and he hired me right there on the spot. We ended up having a good conversation. He hired me. And like, as I started working with him, like I was like, this guy has everything that I want. Like I see him like building this life and doing these things. And like, I feel like I could learn from this guy. And at the same time, this is like my whole story. I was going through this breakup with this girl. And I was like, this is a great time. Like a great time. Like, this is going to be my come up. I'm going to like attach myself to this guy. I'm going to learn everything I can from him. I'm going to become his right hand guy. He's, and I'm going to, this is going to be the launch pad of my career. And I literally did that. I did everything that he asked me to do. He ended up promoting me to manager of a location out in Lansing. I moved out to Lansing and took over the worst store in our whole entire company. It was a location that they had, like Verizon franchise or agent of Verizon, and Verizon had told our company, told Dean, like if you don't bring somebody out here to turn this location around, we're gonna just pull out, and you're gonna have to like close up or do something. You're not gonna be able to sell us anymore. And so they promoted me, and I'm like, why'd they promote me? Like I don't know, but I knew I was out and I was doing things. I was making calls. I was doing the right things, and so he saw me doing the right things, and then so he gave me this position, and he just kicked my ass. I had no idea what it meant to lead or to delegate or to have responsibility. I was had a lot of victim mentality of like it's other people's fault, that kind of thing, especially with the way that I grew up with my dad and all that kind of stuff. And so this guy would just come out and he would be very particular. He ran things in a certain way. He had a system. And so here's the long story short. So I end up learning a lot from this guy and end up growing this location into being one of the top location in our company. It became the top producing location for Verizon agents in the whole entire Midwest region. So like not only did it go from last to first within our 7 stores in our company, but now it's the highest producing location in the whole entire Midwest.
In Fenton.
In Fenton. No, actually, the Fenton store, I ended up getting promoted. He gave me a promotion and I went out to the Lansing store. Right. So I go out in Lansing.
Like Lansing's not that big.
It's south side of Lansing. It's at the time most depressed area in one of the most depressed areas in the state. We're like across the street from low income housing. Not a great area. And so anyways, it's booming, this great location. So, but I I get caught up in kind of my ego, and I'm like, I've done all this stuff, and at the same time, I hadn't mastered leadership yet, and I had a bunch of invoices that was just little things, not invoices, but we took a lot of cash in the store, and I wouldn't go to the bank and drop the deposits. And so at any given time, you could walk into my location and I'd have 8 envelopes filled with cash that I wasn't taking back. And there's just like little things like that he wasn't able to get me to do. And so I get this email one day from the owner of the company, who has never come to me and said, "Oh my God, Jason, you're killing it." It's never given me a pat on the back. I get this email from this guy, Rob, and he's like basically telling me how much I suck. Like, why should I even have you in my company? You can't do these little things. Could you please tell me what I could tell Dean right now so that he can keep his job? Because why would I keep him if he can't keep you in line? That kind of thing. And I was like reading this email, and I'm like, who the fuck does this guy think he is? Right? Like, I've did all these things. Like, I've took this company to this location to here. The rest of the company is growing because of the things I'm doing. And this guy's like, doesn't even give me the pat on the back. And now he's sending me this email basically telling me how much I suck. And so I went home and I typed up this big long email that basically told him he could kiss my ass. Like, I'm going to go somewhere else. Like, I'll take my talent somewhere else, like LeBron James, right? Like, I had this, I typed this big long email, and I was about to send it. And then I asked myself, like, man, what do I want to happen? Like, what outcome do I want out of this? Do I really want to go get another job? Because at the time, nobody in my life had given me what Dean had given me. I talked about Fattel and some other people that had come in and given me belief. But this guy not only believed in me, but he like kicked my ass to where he's like, I'm going to help you become great, right? And so it's like, do I want to leave that right now? And so instead of sending that email, I erased that email, and I ended up sending something different. No, I ended up sending something different and accepting responsibility. And then that night, I got out a notebook and I wrote every single thing that needed to be done in my location. And I wrote down Sunday through through Saturday. And I separated those things. I built a process, and I just started delegating, and I changed my whole entire life. A year later, there's a competition between me and another guy for who gets to go to Vegas. And we had to write this email, like this letter, like whatever, telling them why we deserve to go. And I wrote this message about how I basically was going to set the house on fire with this email and tell Rob to go fuck himself and all this stuff. And then this happened, and now I'm here, and these things have happened, and like now I've changed my life, and it's because of you, and it's because like all this, and like if you take me, I ended up winning. So I'm out in Vegas, and my mentor Dean looks at me. We're in a cab. We're on the way to the hotel and everything, and he's like, "Hey," he's like, "You know that email that Rob sent you?" He's like, "I'm like, yeah," and he's like, "I sent that." He's like, "I couldn't think of what else was going to get you to change." He was like, "I kept telling you."
The first email. Wow.
The email that I thought Rob sent me, Dean, like Rob was bitching at him, and he said, "Hey, let me see your computer." And he just sent me an email acting like he was Rob. He was like, so he sent that to me. And it was just a very defining moment in my life. It changed my whole entire life. And I think of a lot of times, and people that I've been able to come across and be that same, I've looked at it like somebody that's come into my life and has changed my life by believing in me and kicking my ass. And so I've now tried to pay that forward as many times as possible. And it's like, kind of my mission now at this point. And it's all because of that.
That's so cool. It just everything turned around. Like, yeah, it took a long time, but there was a defining moment. Thing that kind of steered you the right way.
Well, and it was that same time, like I told you on the way here, like my dad committed suicide and all this kind of stuff. And it was just like,
you never told me.
Did I not tell you that on the way here? Oh, I thought
wow.
Yeah. My dad, when he was 41, ended up committing suicide.
How old are you?
23. I think I just turned 23.
Wow.
Yeah, but so like just the way that I came up like that. Yeah. Anyways, it was just somebody coming to make a difference.
That's good. I didn't realize that. Wow. So, yeah, that's tops anything I got. But one big thing for me that kind of got my career going was I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I graduated from Michigan State. I was delivering pizza and substitute teaching in Holt in Ingham County and delivering pizza in Holt. And I didn't know what I was doing. I couldn't find a job, and I was applying all over the place. I couldn't find a job. So then I moved to Northville to live with my uncle, my mom's brother. So I was living in his basement, and I'm 20, almost. I'm 23, and then I turned 24. I'm still like, what the hell? So I just start walking around, like knocking on, just what the hell can I do? Passing out, like how you're saying, passing out resumes and stuff. So I went to the YMCA in Farmington Hills, and went up to the front desk and said, "Hey, do you guys anything open for like with sports? Because I always do something with sports, maybe." And they're like, "Well, you can talk to PJ's out in the back doing T-ball right now." So I go to the back, and there's this big bald dude doing stretching stuff like that with little tiny kids. I'm like, Jesus, this is like way too little kids. I don't want to do the sports this little with kids this young. So, but I waited till it was over and I talked to him, and he showed me all around and called me and said, "Well, I can hire you, but it's only for like $8.50 an hour." I'm like, what the fuck? So I didn't have I was living with my uncle, so I didn't have to pay anything. So I was like, well, this is I don't have anything. So I started working there, and then another thing became available to work, for more hours. So I did that. So in conjunction with all the sports, and then the before and after care, we go to the elementary schools and you watch the kids before school, and then you don't do anything in the middle of the day, and then at the end of the day you watch the kids after, and then after that, like at 6, you go and do sport like basketball or t-ball or coach little kids. So I did that and then I just kept doing that for 5.5 years and became like the phys ed director. Where I was in charge of the weight room and the water aerobics and racquetball and adult sports and all the stuff. Oh, rental. We'd rent the gym. I was in charge of that. In addition to all my youth sports stuff. So I ended up having it be sort of a career where I was having a salary after a while. So, and then everyone kept telling me, "Well, you'd be a good teacher. You should do that." So then I did that for 11 years. And I went back to school for 2.5 years and then was a teacher for 11. So
So was that.
That was a big thing because people kept saying, "Oh, you should be teaching." But I didn't want to be a teacher because my mom was a teacher and she was always working all the time. And she, it's super hard.
Yeah.
And it was. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done, but harder than any other job I've ever had. So, except my very last year at the Y was super duper hard because I was in charge of all this stuff. I was in charge of, like I just said, explained all that stuff. That was only for like a year because my boss got promoted in a different place. So then I kind of took over what he was doing, which was great. This guy, Rick, who was the executive director, interviewed me and gave me a chance to do that. So I was able to have a really solid salary job for a little bit. I was a sports director before that, and then I got promoted a little bit. So he showed me what I could do. So I always appreciate people who, give me a chance and kind of put themselves out there. It could go wrong, whatever, and they give me a chance. And then, there's like there's about 7 or 8 people who hired me for pretty big, important positions, like teaching kindergarten in Southwest Detroit or, teaching different gym and stuff at another school in inner city of Detroit that I really appreciated that they give me those chances. So it was, you get pushed when you have to make money. You get pushed, and then you do stuff you don't know if you can do or not. Because a lot of times, like I think, well, I can't do that, and then like I don't know. That's my original mentality. My first instinct is like, I'm not gonna be able to do that, and then you just do it.
And then you
have to,
yeah,
and then you're able to, and then you get better, and that's the big thing. You just practice, and then you get better at stuff.
You've got to do it. It's always going to feel weird and different. Like even switching jobs, like, man, there's been times I've switched jobs and I get there and like, man, what'd I do? Like this is way different. Like different people. Like I see the same UPS guy and I'm so excited, like, oh my God, you know me,
like the new job, you see the old UPS guy?
Yeah. Yes, there's been a couple times I've switched jobs and the same UPS or FedEx guy is on the same route, and they walk in, you're like, oh my God, I know you. This is familiarity, that change is uncomfortable. But man, those little sports idiosms that they say, like like it's out of your comfort zone. Think of no fear back in the day, like pain is weakness leaving the body and all those things, all those like little catchphrases, they're all true.
Like no fear, like the brand.
You remember no fear, the brand?
A little bit, yeah.
It was like pain is weakness leaving the body. They'd always have these like little catchphrases and stuff like that, and that stuff is true, like I remember when I through elementary school getting bullied, and my mom would be like, like anybody that's bullying you, that like they feel worse about themselves
Yeah,
and what they, and like it doesn't make you feel better as a little kid, but then you realize as you get older, like that is so
absolutely true.
true.
Yeah, 100%. It is. Yeah. So, and speaking of like the big changes between one job and another, I mean, I went from teaching Southwest Detroit kindergarten at a charter school to Howell kindergarten.
Oh my God. Wow.
So, so it was,
What a change.
yeah, it was different. I felt much more needed and like much more like I'm making a difference in the Detroit one.
Yeah.
It was like so nice at the Howell one. Like everybody was so awesome. They all the other teachers had been there forever. It was super hard to get a job. I applied all over the place. I remember him calling me. It was in the middle of a staff meeting at my old job, and Tim, the guy who hired me, called me. And I remember I didn't have a voice. I was always losing my voice at this job because just I have the thing where like I clear my throat a lot and cough or whatever, and I lose my voice
Yeah.
because I'm talking all the time during the day as teaching, and probably different people having germs and stuff. So I don't have a voice. He calls me. I'm like, oh my god. I go out of the meeting in the hallway, and I'm like, can you do an interview or whatever? And so I leave this. I think it was like the next day or whatever. We set it up. Okay, I'll call you at this time. So I leave the staff meeting. Actually, and then I go and I remember driving, and I'm like, where the hell am I gonna do this? I got to park somewhere. So I just remember pulling off on the side of the road and calling him to do the interview, and I can't talk, and I'm like or whatever, and he's like, I have 9 questions, and he's like, so he's going through it, asking all the questions, I'm answering them all. I'm feeling pretty good about it, whatever. And then at the end, he goes, I'm not going to ask you the last 2 questions after 7 questions. Like, I'm not even going to ask you to save your voice, but you're exactly what we're looking for. You're exactly the type of person that we're looking for this position. Can you come in and do an interview in person? So I went in a week later, whatever. So, again, super nervous, but super prepared. I did a lot of like research and wrote out exactly what I was going to, because by that time I've been through all the interviews. I know what they're going to ask me. So I go in and I do a good job on this interview. And in that interview, what I remember most about it is they had a TV like this up, and then when I walked in, my resume was up on that my wife made. Like she took my resume and like created a website and like it made it all fancy and like added my resume and had all this stuff and these pictures of me. And I gave him that link. I think I'm saying this right. I gave him that link, and when I walked in, he had that up on the wall.
Wow.
So in combination with Sarah helping me create all this stuff, and him being super tech savvy, it was just like, well, this is perfect. And I did a really good job in the interview.
That's awesome.
And I got the job, and I worked in Howell for 3 years, so it was cool, which is a long time for me, but it was great. It was a good experience.
So for you? What's one of your some of your favorite stories of you coaching? Because I know you've coached.
Oh yeah. Well, like the first thing that comes to mind was I was coaching 4 and 5-year-old soccer my very first year, and a little kid. The best thing for me was like just being in the huddle with all the little kids. Like, this is pretty cool. Like, even teaching, like getting them all like in a huddle and like, wow, this is such a cool experience. And one of the kids says, Coach Bryan, do you ever get canker sores? That's the first thing that I always think of. And we had really cool coaches. We had Dave Rexroth, who was the weatherman for Channel 7,
yeah.
was one of our coaches. He coached a lot. He had 3 boys, so he coached all their teams. So I had to, when I made the schedule, I had to like figure, okay, so Dave's going to do this at 9. I had to like separate.
You did, yeah.
Right. So, and then we had Antoine Joubert was one of our coaches.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of cool coaches. But just coaching, I just like watching the kids get better.
Yeah.
Just doing a lot of like preparation for the practices. Like at first I would like it was insane the type of preparation I would do. And then eventually it's like, well, I don't have time to do all these super fancy every minute what we're going to do practice plans. But I would get better. I wouldn't prepare as much, but I would get better because I'd have all this experience. So I would know exactly what we should be practicing, and you get to know the kids better. A lot of it is just like, another thing I learned a lot doing that was talking to the parents, and just being able to because I was sort of introverted-ish younger, and then that opened me up and got me out of my shell a little bit, having to talk to parents and passing out stuff, during the practices and everything. Delegating, there's a lot of delegation because you had to get other people to coach all the teams and stuff like that. So that was hard for me to like. It was so much. I don't know. It was just hard for me to like let other people do stuff and just sit back and
Oh
just
yeah.
let them do it. So that was naturally a little difficult for me. But learning how to do that. But just like with the kids, I don't know. Just like doing stuff, realizing what works, leaving out what doesn't work, and just like doing stuff over and over. Experience is like so much more important than like education or whatever. It's just like being able to just doing the stuff over and over and making mistakes and getting better. All that stuff really helps you. And yeah, and then just like having people, compliment you, say how great you are, and then other people say how much you suck. So just being able to like
yeah. You're gonna get the criticism.
handle
Yeah.
all of that.
Yep.
God, I remember one time there was a game and I was reffing this little soccer game. It was like the kids were like literally 7. And afterwards, this guy came up to me, started yelling at him, screaming at me. I don't even remember what it was. And I remember not even at the time, not even knowing what he was talking about, but he was super mad at me. And no one has ever before that or since then gave a crap about like to this extent. Like they would say little things, but this guy was like right in my face, all this stuff. I was like, what the hell is even? I don't even know what he's talking about. Like I don't remember that instant. Like what it is. So another dad, and it was so embarrassing because there's all these other people around, and then they sort of like filtered away. But I remember there was one dad who waited, and he said, "I just want to make sure you're okay." And he said that guy is in our HOA, and he causes a big disturbance at the HOA meetings all the time too.
Oh my God.
So it wasn't a one-off. Like
No.
this is a
People
guy who
know
does
him.
this.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that you got to kind of remember is people who do like outlandish, crazy, pissed off kind of things. It's usually
People know them everywhere.
yeah, and they don't. It's not almost always. You got to be careful because you got to watch out for yourself too. But you make sure you're not screwing up. But almost always, it's they're going through some shit.
Yeah.
Through their lives, and they're acting the way they are to you in other aspects of their life too. And so don't take it too personally. Like it's probably just some other weird shit that they're going through, or stuff. They're bad mistakes they've made that have caused them to be in this position to be so miserable and unhappy. And
it is remembering that stuff. It really is. It's it can be hard sometimes, but it is. It's remembering you're so unhappy. Like I'll take a break on you.
yeah, they're gonna take it out. So yeah, you got to just keep that in mind. Don't usually, but you can't just be totally think that way because you got to also make sure that you're doing the right thing and you're doing everything you can to. In that case, being a good ref or whatever. But, yeah, so that's one big thing. I'm trying to think of other, like, I mean, we had one, here's another thing that you might want to drop, but we had a team, I had a team, I think I told you this, when I was coaching, we would try to get all volunteer coaches, but sometimes there wasn't enough volunteer coaches, so then I, as the director, would have to coach teams. So I had this one team that had what ended up being a major league pitcher on the team and a convicted murderer on the same team. So out of a weird coincidence, when I was interviewing, and I probably would have forgotten this, but when I was doing all my teaching interviews years later after I was coaching these teams, somebody gave me a picture of that team. Like I coached a million teams, but this one particular team, they gave me a photo of us all, standing there, just a regular team photo. And I had it, and I used that as like part of my portfolio when I was, I coach this team, and they're both on that one particular team.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Okay, so what pitcher is it?
His name's Sterling Sharp, which is weird because it's the same name as the football player.
Yeah.
But if you look it up, he played for the 2020 Marlins.
Okay.
And then the murderer guy is Tucker Cipriano. He was this adopted kid, and his mom worked for us. Her name was Rose, and you got to cut this out. But
I'll cut out the Rose part. Yeah.
Well, I think the whole thing. But he was on drugs and killed his dad and beat her real bad and with a bat. You can look it up. I mean, you look up Tucker Cipriano. This is the thing. So this was, he was probably 20 at the time, and when I had him, he was like 8.
Yeah.
So yeah,
so you just grew up to be, but
yeah, it was insane. It's just such a weird coincidence that like just to have a major league pitcher like that I knew, like I never have. You look how many, like that's such an infinitesimally small percentage of people become major league pitchers.
Oh yeah.
So that was, I couldn't believe when I saw that.
I have a kid that might be an Olympic athlete. So, and this is one of my favorite coaching stories. This guy, he was from Jackson grew up with them. They were really close friends, and he wouldn't play on teams unless I was coaching it, like flag football.
Jackson wouldn't?
No, this kid, super good kid.
He wouldn't play if you weren't the coach?
He was just a super shy kid.
Okay.
He just was comfortable around me. And so like he would always play on teams, and he's super talented. You could tell he was super athletic, but he's like super smart kid. Him and Jackson, like it was the first house that Jackson spent the night out, spent the night at it.
Sure.
So anyways, I ended up coaching him 7th, 8th grade basketball, and he super talented, had not played much basketball. This was for, we did travel. So the Big Cat League out of Novi, like all the local teams have, a travel team that plays in that league for the most part. Milford, Bryan, all of them, Howell. So we were playing in this league, and this kid, just super talented, but had like these anger, aggression issues, would constantly like end up fighting a kid, or like would just, or like I had times that he would sit down, he'd be mad and he'd remove himself from the game, and he like wouldn't talk to me, and like I would constantly be on him. There's one particular time it was probably one of the last games I coached him. And we were playing, and it was the last game of our season before the tournament, and we were winning this game. And he was absolutely our best player. This kid ended up flourishing. He was one of the funnest kids I've ever coached outside of my son. That's fun coaching your kid, but like he was the funnest person I've ever coached because he was just so coachable. Oh my God, when you get somebody that will like just do the things that you coach them on, like from a basketball playing standpoint, and then he got obsessed with it.
He went from being this super angry kid to this really coachable
and he
kid.
Still had this anger, but like but for me, he was super coachable. He would do anything that I asked him to do. He had size and he's super fast. So anyways, fast forward this game. We're down. He's probably got like 30 points in this game, right? So we're not even in the game if he's not who he is and what he's doing. But at the end of the game, we're up by 1. There's like 1 second left on the clock, and he got the ball inbounded to him, and the kid intentionally fouled him, but like hung on his back, and Chance took him and flung him across the court and got a double technical. They got 2 free throws. They made both of them, and we lost the game. And Chance came over and was like, upset. She came over and she was giving him excuses. Like, it doesn't, it's okay. It's okay. And I said, it's not okay. And he looked up at me. I'm like, it's not okay. I'm like, you disappointed not only the team, but you disappointed yourself. You disappointed me. For like, if you did something like you missed a shot, it's okay. Like, you're okay. But if you did something because you lost control, and he was hanging on me. I'm like, but that means that you got the foul, right? Like, if now you respond and now you're in trouble, we lose the game. If you just let it happen, he's in trouble. We win the game. Like, we win the game. I can't remember exactly what I said to him, but then his mom called me and was like, he's taken this so hard, not because he let down his team, but because he let down you. And still to this day, he's like, I see him downtown, like where I'm outside mowing the lawn, he's hanging out his car, waving at me and stuff like that. Wow. But he is right now the second fastest kid in our whole entire state of Michigan. The only person, Samson Gash, beat him by 1/10 of a second in the 100-meter last year.
So he goes to Brighton?
He goes to Novi.
Okay. Wow.
Chance McNeil, super fast. He's track. He'll end up. I can guarantee you he'll end up being in the Olympics in track. He's like fully committed to track. He's like running national events right now. So it's so cool to see that come around.
Impact, yeah.
Not that I made him fast. He's fast, right? But it's one of those things. But
that's
what
coaches can do is have that sort of impact where he wanted to do it for you kind of, or he wanted to make you
proud
of him, and then in the in the course of doing that, you're doing good stuff for yourself, really. And that's the whole thing. Because if he's going to go through, and a lot of people have this, so they're going to go through their lives and people are going to make excuses for him and say it's okay. But a lot of times they need to hear from a coach, it's not okay. And that, where it's not okay that you reacted. When you're that young, it's hard to stop, but there's consequences, and you don't need to.
Well, and so I love coachable kids. I love coachable people. In the sense of him, he would go out and do all those things. I loved having the kids on my team that wanted to got cut from their middle school team, because they would work harder. I had this kid on my team that I remember I didn't know who he was. And so I was asking Jackson, I saw I had the tryout list for the team. And I was like, do you know who these kids are? And he was like, oh, this kid's not very good. He got cut from the team, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm watching this kid during tryouts and he's got a solid looking shot. He's making all these jumpers. I'm watching him. He's sinking everything, and his jumper looks solid. He's a short kid, not a ton of talent as far as athleticism. He's not fast or anything, but he's just he's got this pretty sweet looking shot. So I'm like, oh, he's not all bad. So I go up and I talk to him, right? And I'm like, hey man, that's a nice shot. You're bearing the shots. I forgot what I asked him. He's like, yeah. He's like, coach. He's like, I got cut from the middle school team, and he was like, I just want to get better. So I told my mom, that I want to get better at basketball, and so she got me a coach. And I've been working with a shooting coach twice a week. And so I've been getting my shot down. He's like, I just want to play. And so I ended up, he made the team. He was one of my favorite kids to coach. And again, he would give you 5,000%, not the fastest kid, not the most talented kid, but he would go out there and he'd make something happen.
And it's good as coach to look and see the good in the kids is also very important.
Well, and because the only reason I started coaching is because from basketball, I love it, but the only reason I started coaching is because I'd watched so many people coach just because their son was on the team, and it's dad, but that kid's the starting point guard or the starting quarterback, plays the whole entire game and maybe doesn't deserve it, and it's unless Jackson deserves to be the starter, he's not the starter. I had a year where he came off the bench the whole entire season. The next year he earned his playing time. He ended up starting by the end of the year, but he had to earn it. Right. But at the same time, I'm also a realist of a trophy for me as a coach to win first place in a tournament isn't the end all be all. I want these kids to know what it's like to be part of a team. I want them to know what it's like to win or to support each other. I want them to know what it's like to be coached and to get better. And a lot of times we're focusing in as coaches on the X's and O's and running plays so that we can win a game. And we're not teaching them skill. We're not sitting there and being like, man, your shot's broken. Man, has anybody taught you how to shoot? No, because they're worried that if they sit and teach you how to shoot, you're going to go backwards and, you're going to actually get worse before you get better and you're not going to win games. For me, I want you to be a productive basketball player. I want you to have fun doing it. And I want you to score. Yeah. I had this kid on my team that the year before didn't get to touch the ball. He was on the team, didn't get to touch the ball. When he touched the ball, everybody yelled for him to pass it. Didn't score the whole entire time, right? To the point where he got fouled this one year, and they were playing the rival Legacy. So he knew all the kids on the Legacy's teams. They went to school with them, and he shot a free throw and made it. Both teams stopped and hugged him. Both teams. The next year, I coached him, and he was one of our top scorers. That's awesome. He was a 3-point shooter, and he ended up playing basketball up until junior year.
Nice.
He was made freshman in JV basketball.
So you got a lot of these good experiences because you coached older kids, right? What was the youngest?
I started coaching in 6th grade.
Yeah, so I
like that 6th, 7th, 8th.
All younger. So I didn't have all that development and stuff, but
I'll coach again when I want Jackson to get out of his senior year, but I miss the coaching standpoint. Yeah. Again, giving kids belief that they didn't have. It's so much fun to give them the spark.
Yeah, a lot of times that's all it takes. Absolutely.
Yeah. So. And again, whether. So there was a kid that I remember he moved to Jackson's school. His name was Lucas Stone, super good kid. And Jackson's like, oh, this kid doesn't know anything about football. He's asking me all these questions about football every day. I'm teaching him how to play football. That's in 3rd grade, right? It's super cute. He's like, I'm taking him under my wing and I'm showing him how to play. Right. And the kid ended up being a super good football player. Jackson ended up not playing, but this kid was our starting linebacker and, is a good player. And it's just cool how you can influence and impact people.
Absolutely. Somebody I failed to mention who just just recently, I'm learning about is Coach Lewis and Howell. He's the football coach there.
Oh yeah.
He is unlike anybody I've ever met. So I've always kind of known who he was, going to games and stuff, but super energetic guy. We had a parent meeting before, because Sam's a freshman there, and so he had a parent meeting for all the parents right before, a couple weeks before the season started, and we were both blown away by this guy. We're like, oh my God, like it was like in a little theater, and all the parents are sitting there, and we're just like, holy cow, because this guy has so much energy. He had this PowerPoint, he was zipping through everything, very demonstrative, but through it all, a little quirky, like a little bit like, oh, this guy's a little different. But if you listen to the message, it's all about the team, improving the kid, making the kid a better person.
Yeah.
Everything you want to hear. One cool thing he said, which I thought was really interesting, was that he said, if you have trouble with playing time, what we're going to do, like if you have a complaint about playing time, don't just contact me directly. Me and you and your child are all going to be in a meeting together, and we're going to talk about it, because we're not going to have mixed messages. We're going to have one message about what the reasoning and all that stuff. And I thought that is genius, because most of the time, if parents are thinking, oh, my kid's not playing enough, they'd call, set up a meeting with the parent, and then it'd be, but if you have your kid in there with you, you're probably going to be on a better behavior. A, and B, you probably won't even do the meeting anyway, because you don't want to go through all that trouble of getting everybody together and organized and everything. So that just, I don't know, for some reason I just think he does smart stuff. Like, he doesn't email us directly. He emails there's always team moms, there's like 4 or 5 team moms, and then they send it out. So there's a buffer between him, who's going to deal with a bunch of shit, being the head coach at a big football program, and all the hundreds of parents that have their kids in the 3 different levels. So there's a little bit of a buffer there. I don't know, just little things like that. It's like, this guy's, and he goes to a lot of like trainings and stuff, and just I'm really into this football thing, just because I think he works his ass off and he tries really hard. And you know what? They're really successful. They went 8-1. But there was a football banquet at the end of the season. I keep talking about football, different banquets, but at the banquet, you would never know what their record was, because it was never mentioned. You wouldn't know that they won a playoff game. You wouldn't know any. You wouldn't know any statistics about this, because they didn't talk about any of that. But they came up, and every single kid in the pro, there's like 100 kids or so, more than that, in the football program. There's like 60, 40. There's probably 150 kids in the football program at Howell. And every single kid got called up, and then they said something about him. Well, for the JV and in the varsity, they brought every single kid up, and they would talk about him in front of everybody, saying, how hard they work, what they're good at, where they're going next year, how they're good teammates, a couple quick little anecdotes about them. Nothing about stats or like how many games they won or anything like that. It was really impressive. Like, I thought, okay, he's playing football, but now I'm like, oh, this is excellent, and it's so exciting, So I'm really impressed with that, with him and all the staff. The JV coach has been there even longer than him. Everybody just stay, like, they have a very steady approach. He decided when he took over, he didn't even know what kind of offense they were going to run, but he realized, I read this later, that most of their best, most talented kids were the big kids. We're like the linemen. We're like the more talented kids in football. So they decided, we're just going to run the ball all the time.
Yeah.
We're going to have 3 running backs, 2 tight ends, 5 linemen, quarterback. That's our offense. And it's been
good.
Awesome. They went 8-1 this year. They won a playoff game, then lost the second game. They beat Bryce Underwood in Belleville last year.
Yep.
So it's pretty exciting. I can't wait for the next year. We went up to Traverse City. Was the very first game. Played Traverse City West. Sam's first ever game. Was looking forward to it forever. We went there. The freshmen won 14-0. They had a pick 6. The very first game. I don't know. I've never watched a freshman football game before. I'm like, what's going on? And then the JV won. Varsity won. All of them won. And then JV went 8-1. Freshmen went 8-1. Varsity went 8-1. I don't know. JV might have lost 1 or 2 games. So yeah, it's a fun deal.
That's a fun deal.
They, and I just really appreciate all this hard work too.
That's cool. And they have a program like that. And I don't know much about him other than seeing some of his interviews and stuff like that. But
and another thing is there's no off season. They like today. I had picked up Sam from before I came here from weightlifting. They lift weights 4 days a week. They do speed training twice a week, and it's January.
Yeah.
Football doesn't even. And they were doing twice a week up until like in November, December. They were doing twice a week weightlifting. It's insane. So there's rules where he can't be around all the time and different. Can't use a football and all that stuff. But they have something. 80% of the days after school they have football. It's it takes a year out, and that's why they're so good because they're working harder than everybody else.
Oh yeah,
so it's great.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
I can't end this without giving a shout out. I was just thinking, he was on my list, a couple coaches that Jackson had through football coming up. In one particular was on my podcast. Both of them were on my podcast, actually. Sean McGraw was one of them. This guy, I'd go to the practices just because I wanted motivational talks. Like this guy, like is just fired up. Like, man, he's like just pure heart. And he'd always come in like really flashy, like orange pants and like, so he's a State Farm agent. He owns a State Farm. And so my brother knows him, and Jordan would be like, oh, my friend Sean, hopefully when Jackson gets up and he's playing football, Sean is still coaching over there. I hope Sean gets to coach him. And then lucky enough, we did get that experience. And Sean coached him for a couple years. And then now he coaches, he's an assistant. And this is crazy. This is like his level of dedication. He lives here locally. I think he lives in like the Lakeland area, Milford, somewhere, in that area. And he drives like all during football season. He coaches Zeeland East out in Grand Rapids. He goes there every single day.
That's like 2.5 hours.
Yeah. And I think he stays out there, but like it's just crazy.
And they're good, Zeeland East.
They're good.
They made the playoffs because I remember Zeeland East and West both made the playoffs. Wow.
So just a guy that again, watching him coach all those individual kids, he gave all of them a belief system and a hope. And I've always loved the coaches that see your kid. Because not every coach, especially when you go through programs like Howell and Brighton, and you mention all the numbers, like our varsity team's got like 100 kids on it. By the time when you go through those, it's hard for the coaches to see every player. In Sean McGraw and then Bryan Bastinelli, who was the head coach for those teams. I've also had my podcast, another really awesome guy. But again, those two guys just really saw not just my kid. I saw them see all the kids and really were coaching them versus like not just trying to win games. We of course try to win games as coaches, but to me that's not the most important part.